brother. I got to know him. And oh my gosh, where to start? I always say my big regret is that I didn't tape record Tony's stories and write a book, because no one, and it would read like fiction. No one would ever believe the things that he did, and the adventures he had, and the life that he led. And most of it was not legal, and most of it was certainly not appropriate. But oh my gosh, was he colorful? And I'll tell it. And when he became ill, I took him to his radiation treatments. So I spent every day with him and got to know more about his daily life than anybody should ever know about another human being. But the stories that he said, oh my gosh, it was just, it was crazy. Like I said, I wish I were a writer, and I would love to. Maybe someday I'll write them down. So my favorite story, I'll drag this out because we have lots of time, is he, as his health failed, his motorcycle's outside, he made me more and more nervous, made everyone nervous about riding the bike. So I had this great idea that he came over and I said, why don't you get us a VW, a little bug, and you and I can go out tootling around, because he was always saying that he likes to ride on the back roads. He and I could go tootling around the back roads. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And then a week or so later, he comes back over the house. He says, guess what I got us? A sand rail. I had no idea what a sand rail was. Well, it's like a doodle sort of thing, which was not what I had in mind. And so he said, well, I'm going to get you one, and you got you one, and we're going to go around the back roads. And I said, well, I know, whatever. It's got to be better than the bike. I was wrong. So, Buddy's first wife came to visit. She spent the night, which was interesting. I won't say no more than that. And Joe is visiting. Joe and I are sitting out on the porch, and Tony comes over with the sand rail. And were you with him? I can't remember. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he says, "Oh, I got this," and Joe and I were talking, and then Joe leaves, and then he says, "Let's, ride the sand rail." Well, I'm a coward, and he's putting me in the sand rail, and it was a piece of junk. Sorry. The clutch, you had to let it out to here. It was like, oh my gosh. And so the steering was all funky, and we're going around on the kind of flat part of the yard, and he said, goose it, goose it, goose it. And I'm not going to goose it. I'm just, driving around. And I'll backtrack a little bit. I lived with Chad and Karen, and Chad had been clearing out the woods between the house and the pond, which is, if any of you have not been there, it's steep. There's a big drop off. It's a big hill to go down there. And because of Tony's health, he hadn't been able to see why I'm making this going on. And that's my phone. Please turn off your cell phones.
I don't know how to shut your phone off.
So I thought, oh, Tony, you want to go down and see the clearing part? And like I said, because his health was bad, it was hard for him to, I thought it was hard to walk down the hill. So I said, would the sand rail go down this hill, which is a pretty steep hill? And backtrack a little bit, when he was talking about the sand rail and buying it, he said, oh, the guy took me for a test drive, and we went out in the woods, and we ran through this valley and up this big steep cliff, and blah, 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 and it sounded like it would do anything. So, just it would go down this hill, and keep in mind, not like Daredevil Sherry wants to go out in the woods, because I don't. So he said, oh, yeah. So we get in the sand road. He's driving because I don't want to go down the hill because it's a steep hill and I'm we get in the sand road and we start, as we're getting toward the top of where the hill crests, I said, now, don't scare me, those are my last words. And he pushed it just a little bit and moved, went over the hill, and I don't remember real well what happened from that point. It died, I think. And I can tell you that we were out of control. And it was a very long hill. It didn't seem so long to start out with, but it was a really long hill, and I remember thinking, oh, this is not going to end well. And I think Tony might have said, oh shit, but I'm not even positive about that. And then thunk, we hit a tree, and that's what stopped us. And at that time it wasn't very funny. I thought I was going to die. It was like an accordion. I went and I couldn't breathe. And so Robert, thank heavens, was there, and he comes charging down the hill the first time. Am I making this story way too long? I don't know.
No, you're good, Sherry.
Goes charging down the hill, and I said, "Oh, 911!" And so he goes up the hill, and he can't find his phone, so he comes back down the hill, and I said, "Tell him where my phone was," and he goes back up the hill. And this is a steep hill. I mean, I'm not kidding. If you're in good shape, it's hard to walk up and down this hill.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so then he brings the phone. I don't know how to use your phone. So I called Chad and said, call 911. Tony and I were in an accident. Chad said, are you kidding? And I said, no. So I'll let Chad will talk, and he can tell you. There you go. So, but what Tony did, and Tony's health is not great, and he had to have gotten hurt. But anyway, he managed to get out of the sand rail. I'm hanging out by this point, and I can't breathe, and I'm scared because I can't catch my breath, and the more I can't catch my breath, the kind of more scared I get. And Tony walked out, got out of the sand rail, walked around on my side, and sat down and patted my hand and said, "You're going to be okay, and it's all right." And not the Tony I would have guessed. Suck it up. Suck it up, you're all right. And he was so sweet. And you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay. So that was my great adventure with, by the way, I was hurt. I wasn't just a baby. I had a broken rib and a lacerated liver, and anyway, I was in the hospital for a while. Tony says I was a drug seeker. And that was true. I definitely was a drug seeker. I wanted the drugs. That's where I wanted to be, and I'm so happy to be there. I was in intensive care. I wanted to talk about that. I guess it's kind of making this about me. I don't mean to do that, but I spent a lot of time with Tony when he was ill, and oh my gosh, he was grouchy. And you would go over to his house, and it's like you didn't know, you just didn't know. And so I would have to make excuses like, oh, they finally had donut holes. I got you some donut holes. Or I just go into the store, so I thought I'd stop by. But one of the things that he did do before he got really bad is he took my hand and held it for a while and said, "Thank you for being my friend." he wasn't great with the kindnesses. You know, he had a pretty sharp temper there. So that's my Tony story. There's more.
There's more. You didn't talk about the doctor visits.
Oh, I will tell you, when his kids came in, he was so excited. I don't know if I had a chance to tell much of this, but as I took him to his doctor's appointments, he's so wanted to come and visit you, Latina, and we were going to make a road trip, and we were going to rent a car, and he had it all planned out. And had his health, had he ever gotten a little bit better, we might have gotten to do that, but you know, he just couldn't do it. He was really looking forward to that, and then he was gonna, you know, go visit the boys, and I'm thinking, oh, for the love of God, me and Tony in the car.
I know, we were gonna surprise visit originally, but because he kept talking that way, John had to tell him we were coming. Yeah, because he was determined he was gonna drive all the way to Iowa. We're like, we're coming, just sit.
So the kids come in, and Johnny's renting cabins for them out on East 10th, on the other side of the road. And by this time, Tony's not driving, and it's the first and only snow of the season we had back in November. And Tony was grouchy, just a little grouchy. He was nervous and he was excited, and so I was going to go pick up Tony. Lana was with me, and drive his truck out to the cabin, which I'd never been to, but I knew about what it was. But it's snowing, it's dark, and I don't see so good at night anymore. And so the first thing, I get in the truck and I back out, and, oh my God, you're making me nervous. I'm like, what am I doing? Anything. So that started the whole thing out. And it was a new truck for him, and he was like, oh, this is my new truck. And I think he'd only driven it one time. So that got me anxious to start out with, because I had been given the word not to piss him off. I was supposed to get in there in a good mood. Believe me, that was not a fair task. So Lana cowers in the back. She's not saying anything. We're driving along, and I was dropping something. Anyway, I had to.
You had to pick me up at Whitehall store.
Okay. So.
Sherry turns and ramps in the grass.
I didn't ramp. But I did just the turn. Tony had me so damn nervous. And I'm thinking, oh my God, and I see Lana, so I went over the grass and said, oh, it's an off-road vehicle. So then Lana gets in, and like, he's already used more. It's his new truck, and I did take it off-road. I didn't mean to. And then we're driving out 10th Street, and he's grouchy, and by this time my hands are sweating, I got pissed. Oh, just please, I'm trying to make conversation, and that's not going well, and I can't see, and finally I'm thinking, maybe I ought to let Lana drive, like, she doesn't seem better than I do it, and I'm glad I did it. And then we get part of the way there, and I said, so where are we going? Yeah, I'll clean it up. You don't know where the hell we're going? And I said, yeah, we know that. So it was like, oh my God. So then we get out to close to where the cabin is, and of course I pass it. Meanwhile, East 10th cabin is a real windy road, and it was dark, and I couldn't see. And we pass it, so then I have to turn around. The only place to turn around is in this person's driveway, which is a kind of steep drive. So I get down, where the hell are you going? I gotta turn around, I'm not gonna back out on 10th because it was a corner and I couldn't see it. So I get down there, and then the way the truck was and the way the driveway was, I couldn't see it back up. And then it's like, oh my God. I didn't think I was gonna, I've been driving forever, I didn't think I was gonna get out of the driveway. Well, I finally did, and we made it there, but it was like the worst drive of my life.
right, I didn't think he was dead, because when she called me and asked me to call 911, I got off the phone with her, my first thought was, well, what about Uncle Tony? You know, I didn't hear, oh, he's okay, or we're going to get 2 ambulances. So I called 911 and I headed home as fast as I could. And when I got down there, she was right. He was standing outside of the sand row, and he was trying to do his best with her, and then he was always making her laugh, which would make her hurt. The paramedics were looking at us because we're making fun of her. Kind of like our family tradition. If you're not dead, you're going to get made fun of.
And even if you're dead.
So, the paramedics got Sherry loaded up, and Uncle Tony started walking up the hill. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to walk up this hill. I said, well, they'll give you a ride. He said, oh, no. He said, they're not giving me a ride nowhere. So he started walking up the hill. I'm like, you know, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going up the hill. So he got up to the top of the hill, and he was sitting in a chair by the time we got up there with the paramedics and Sherry. They got her loaded up and headed out to the hospital, and there was a paramedic and a sheriff sitting with Uncle Tony, and they're trying to check him out, and, well, I can't say what he said. There was a whole lot of stuff. And so I walked over there, and the paramedic walked away, and the sheriff said, well, you know, who are you? And I said, well, I'm his nephew, and, you know, this is my property. And he said, well, you're going to need to get him checked out. I said, yeah, good luck with that. He said, no, you're going to need to take him to the hospital and get him checked out. I said, yeah, good luck with that. He's like, you're not understanding. I said, you're not understanding. I'm not taking this man anywhere unless he tells me to. And Sheriff just looked at me, he's like, well, but he's got to get checked out. And I'm like, man, we can fight all day long, but I'm telling you, he's not going. So the sheriff finally left us alone, and I told Uncle Tony, I said, well, I got to go to the hospital, Sherry's there. He's like, I feel really bad. I said, well, go with me, we'll go see if she's all right. Oh, no. I'm like, why not? I'm like, we'll go in there and see if she's all right. Nope, because then they'll want to check me out, and they'll keep me, and I'm not going. Ever call me. Go, we're off the hill. You won't go with me. Nope, I'm not going. They want to keep me, and I'm not staying. It's like, all right. I don't know what to say. Oh, come on. Yeah, when he was down below, before he started walking up the hill, the paramedics kept looking at him because he was getting dizzy and, you know, wanting to fall. And I'm standing by him, and I put my arms out, and the paramedics looked at me, and I was like, I didn't know if I was going to be in trouble by them or him. So I was just like, you know, what do I let him fall? We were at the sand rail, and I kind of leaned up to his ear, and I said, what's wrong with you? He's like, I'm just dizzy, I'll be all right. I said, well, they're staring at you. He's like, leave me alone. I said, you better get your stuff together. He's like, I said, leave me alone. They're going to take your old ass. I hope they do. They were like a couple minutes after that, he walked up there.